Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Lorraine Masia Bonera. So in this channel we'll be discussing everything life. I will start telling you about everything concerning my life with the hope that it will resonate with someone and that some people can find an inspiration in my story. So in brief, yeah, I was born in Malawi at a time when my father had just died. So at the time when I was born, my mom was 3 months pregnant with me. They were living in the city at the time in Blantyre, and then she had to move to the village. I was born in the village, and this is why I don't know my my actual birthday yet, because it was a difficult time for my mom. She had my brothers and my sisters, four of them, and they my sisters were just like 6 months old around that when she was pregnant with me, and then my father died, so it was a lot going on. So I still have you know um, an estimated date of birth which points to um, like approximate time that I was born. So at the yeah, so my father died when my mom was like 3 months pregnant with me, and then I was born. When I turned 7 months old, she left. My mom left me with my grandmother with the rest of other my siblings at the time, and my mom went to live in Zimbabwe where she got a, a new husband, like my stepfather. So I grew up with my grandmother, and at some point they came back. My mom and my stepfather came back. They were living in the city again in Blantyre, and we continued to live in the village. So I came to know my mom. It was around 1979 when my my one of my sisters had passed away, and so my mom came. Uh, that from that time she had just come from Zimbabwe, and she didn't return back to Zimbabwe because my stepfather decided also to just come back to Malawi for good, and then they settled in Blantyre. So then my mom left us again to go back to her um, marriage in Blantyre now, and I had a few, life was hard in the village living with my grandma. My grandma was the second wife to my grandfather. I remember when my grandfather married his third wife. I still remember that and what was going on at the time. Probably that will be a different video at some point, on a different theme. But this, I'm just trying to give you the kind of like defining moments in my life, and then we will unpack with various videos that will be following up. But in this one, I'm just trying to walk you through my beginning to where I am today. Okay. So yeah, and then I was just below 12 years old. I was like 11 years and something. Life was really hard in the village, and so where I lived, it was the villages were adjacent to the village where my father came from. So I tried to go to my father's side because that's where my father's brothers lived, and we were living in a glass thatched typical village houses. But from my father's side, my father's brother was living in a house made of brick and corrugated iron and all. So I admired that type of houses and life. I thought the grass was greener over there. But when I went there, that the grass was not green, as you all know that it's not always that the grass is greener over there, unless you water it. So I lived there briefly, there was a lot that happened as well. So I moved on again to another brother. So it was kind of like coming from a hot frying pan falling onto onto the fire itself, now directly. And so when I went to my second uncle, which in my culture would still be my father's, because it's my father's brother, there I didn't stay long as well, because the life just became worse and worse and worse. So then I returned back to my grandmother. And yeah, I had changed. I had lost weight. I wasn't happy because really life was hard. I'm someone who normally do not just complain for complaints sake, but if I'm in hard, life was hard. So, and I was young, but I was doing work that was like for grown up people, very, very hard work. Probably will be different videos altogether, if at all we can go into those details. And then when I turned 12, I moved to the city to join where my mom lived. And my stepfather didn't like me much. That's what I came to realize. So I struggled to get like school fees every year. So when I was in standard 8, which would be, some of you would call it like when you are around 12, 13 years, which is like, as is the end of your primary school, we usually have an exam so that you can get selected to secondary schools. But I didn't have so almost every year I wasn't really attending classes. When they start chasing people out who haven't paid fees, I'll be the first one to leave. But anyway, after a number of years of trying, in the year that I got selected to secondary school, my brother, one of my brothers, our firstborn, came from wherever he had also sought refuge, I guess, where he grew up from. He came back, and so he came with some change, and he found us. Me and my sister had already dropped out of school because there was nobody to pay school fees for us. And so my brother had some money. It wasn't enough. It was short of about 50 tambala in my currency, very small amount, less than a pound, less than 20p, but it was a lot of money then. So although he had that shortage, we went and negotiated with the teachers, and they accepted us back. So I went back to school, and I was so happy I got selected. One thing about me is that I was very intelligent in class, especially in early years, and I worked so hard. I guess because it was also because of missing classes all the time, it made me to study on my own. And so that is why I, even to date, I prefer studying on my own, because I'm used to it. I concentrate more when I'm alone, and I want to understand things. I want to teach myself things, because almost all my education has been teaching myself, almost. And so, yes, I got selected to secondary school, and I was happy. Everything was fine with me, and I looked like, oh my God, I'll have a bright future. At least I will have a secondary school education, because in my country, if you finish secondary school, you definitely get a job at the time, not now. So anyway, I went to secondary school. I only finished Form 1. When I started Form 2, I discovered that I was pregnant with my son. So I was dismissed from school, and my son was born. I had nowhere to live. I didn't have anything else to go back to. It was hard. My son was born. I kind of like rotated in different places, different houses. Like I'm saying, this is just a whistle stop tour, but we will go into some of the details depending on the topic that we'll be tackling. So my son was born, and when he was also 7 months old, just like I was when I was 7 months old, I was given to my grandmother. I also gave my son to my mom, which is my son's grandmother, to look after him, so I could go back to school. And yes, I went to. We used to have evening schools, which is which is not not the same as secondary school, but you go in the evenings so you can get some form of learning. um yeah, so but when I was at the those evening schools, one of the teachers, um a lady, used to make very good comments about me and said a lot of good things about me. Just like from primary school, teachers have always been saying very good things. Like even when I dropped out, when we were dropping in and out of primary school because of school fees, I remember one of the teachers even came to speak to my mom to say, "But your daughter is very intelligent." When she wrote this, it was an agriculture teacher this time around. So he said, this was the last exam that she sat, but she was highest in the class. She got 86%. So our teachers all through have always said very nice, good, positive um, comments about me, which has been really also the driving force inside of me when I remember what people have said, and most especially teachers. I have received also very not so good things from like friends. I remember when I had my son, one of my friends that we grew up together, he said to me, "You said you're gonna be a doctor. Is this a doctor?" Pointing at my pregnancy. So that I forgive I forgive him, and he passed away. I hope he so rests in peace. But I'm just saying this as an example of things that sometimes we do tell our friends as if it's funny, when actually it is people's lives, and will be remembered for saying not so good things. Okay, where was I? All right, my son. Now I leave my son at 7 months old with my mom, and then I go back to an evening school. And at evening school, one of the teachers also said, "Oh my God," because we were asked to do a play. And so I said, "I'm gonna do that play." It was in English, and it had a very long, you know, text to memorize. I memorized that, and I played as a mother-in-law to a son-in-law. So we're like two people play, and it's called An Interview with a Mother-in-Law, one of the from the English literature books. So I memorized that, and we performed, and that teacher took me around to the whole, all the classes for us to perform. And then after that, after I wrote the exam, I got selected back into secondary school, into a government secondary school, to complete my secondary school. And the first attempt to go to university, I wasn't given it. So I went again for the second time, and I went to uni. But when I was refused at the first time, I had also applied to a nursing school where they gave me a place to go and do a nursing school. So I was in nursing school for 1 year, but it was tough. I will also explain what I learned when I was in nursing school and why I left, and all that went on when I was in nursing school. And then I left to go to the University of Malawi now, because the nursing was a certificate, but University of Malawi was a 4 year degree. The nursing course was 3 years certificate. I only completed the first year. I didn't go for the second year or third year. So because I went to the university where I studied a degree in environmental health at the University of Malawi Polytechnic, which I graduated successfully. Of course, successfully, but almost like first year and second year, especially, each time I failed the exam, some of the subjects, and then I had to resit and then pass, which they call supplementary exams. So it says my phone is hot now. Okay, I don't know what has happened, but yeah. Uh, so yeah, through supplementary exams, but I also attribute it to the fact that I wasn't attending all the classes, um, because I had my son to look after, and my mom, who was looking after my son, died in year 2000. I was only in second year at university then. So the person who is in charge of my son, who is looking after my son, dies. What do you do? Okay. Fast forward, I started working at Malawi College of Health Sciences after I completed my degree, and I worked as a lecturer, and at some point I was the head of department, and I was the only woman with the rest of members of the academic team who were all men, and I became the head of the department. How was that experience like? What did I learn? So this channel is about every single thing that I have learned, and sharing wisdoms as well as sharing lessons, and if someone can learn something from it, or if it can inspire someone, that would be a great achievement for me. And then I moved to the UK, where I came to study, and then I got stuck for 10 years without visa, without any form of stay, and not allowed to work, no, nothing. How did I survive in the 10 years living with life, living in limbo? Now I am a grandmother, I'm living in UK, and I'm working. I'm 50. What will the pension look like when I have spent so much time not working, living in poverty? And what is it that I'm doing? I have now published 2 books under my name. I Was Not Born a Sad Poet, and this one now I sing. I Was Not Born a Sad Poet came back in 2022. Now I Sing has just come out this year, 2024. So how does publishing look like? How did I start writing? What are my future plans? What am I working on? So these are things that we will be discussing here. What is my life like on day-to-day basis? Who is my inspiration? What am I doing? Who is helping me? Is there someone I'm leaning my back on? Who is my support? If I'm saying I lost my father before I was born, my mom died when I was still in university, and he was the carer of my son. What happened then after she dies? So all of that, we want to unpack things to to draw lessons from it and share with each other in a very honest and there's a word I'm looking for, authentic. Yes, authentic way. So this is me. I hope you enjoyed the video as an introduction. Thank you.